He'll never give me the life I deserve. That's what she said, laughing, hand waving a half-empty martini glass like she was the goddamn queen of Midtown. Rooftop bar, city skyline, fake grass under overpriced heels. I'd driven an hour in traffic to be there, wore the blazer she liked, even trimmed my beard because she said, "It photographs better clean." I stood 3 feet away from her when she said it. 3 feet, right in front of her team, her boss, and some guy she kept touching on the arm like he was in on some private joke. She didn't whisper it. She announced it, like a toast. "He tries, bless him." She gestured at me like I was a pet she let live in her purse. The group chuckled. Tight, polite, unsure if they were supposed to laugh or pretend they didn't hear it. I didn't throw a drink. I didn't shout. I didn't even blink. I just said, "Then earn it yourself," and stepped away from the table. She blinked, tilted her head like she'd misheard. I didn't wait for her to respond. The elevator took 30 seconds to arrive. I remember because I counted. Not out of nerves, out of calculation. Each floor it passed, I felt my heartbeat slow. I walked out of her life that night in absolute silence. And no one stopped me. She didn't come after me. Neither did anyone else. Because I wasn't the show. I was the prop. In that elevator, under those dim golden lights, I wasn't angry. I was surgical. Something snapped into place. You know that feeling when your ears pop and suddenly everything's clearer? That's what it felt like. Years of swallowing slights, of laughing off jokes, of quietly letting her frame me as the small one while she climbed her imaginary tower. All of it crystallized into one cold decision. I'm done being your foundation. By the time the doors opened on the lobby, I already knew what to do. And the best part? She didn't see it coming. She thought she'd humiliated me. But all she did was hand me the knife I needed. Let me pause here for 1 second and say this. If this hits even a little too close to home, if you've ever smiled through someone turning you into a punchline, subscribe. You've got no idea how much it motivates our team to keep telling stories like this. Over 97% of you listen without subscribing. If even a few of you click that button, it helps us stay sharp and brutal where it counts. Back to Dana. By the time her third round landed, I was gone. I didn't text, didn't call, just left. She probably spun some story about me being sensitive or moody to the crowd. That's her move, reframe. Control the narrative. Dana was always the victim of someone else's reaction, never the author of her own behavior. I took a cab home, grabbed the go bag I'd packed months earlier. Not out of paranoia, but because part of me always knew this marriage was built on her timeline, not mine. She needed me as long as I made her look grounded. Once I became the weight, she'd cut the rope. The townhouse was still lit up when I pulled in. Her mother's painting above the mantel, the gift she never hung herself. The dining chairs I assembled alone. The spice rack she told her friends she custom ordered. I installed that with a broken drill and 3 strip screws. Every inch of that place had my fingerprints on it. My money, my time, my silence. I didn't take anything sentimental. Just my laptop, my documents, the framed photo of my dad fishing. Because he would have told me, "You're not a man if you stay for that." On the kitchen island, I left the manila envelope. Inside, signed separation agreement. No theatrics, just bullet points, dates, clean exits. The prenup, her idea, ironically, was airtight. I just needed her signature. I also left a post-it on the fridge. It didn't say goodbye. It said, "Now you're free to chase the life you deserve." Then I locked the door from the outside and slid the key under the mat. Not a single neighbor saw me leave. And that, for the first time in a long damn while, felt like power. By 6:15 a.m., I was already on the interstate. Passenger seat, laptop bag, coffee thermos, the same model she once called cheap-looking. Trunk, 3 boxes, a duffel, and 1 folding chair, the only piece of furniture I took, and only because it fit. Before leaving, I logged into our joint bank account and transferred exactly half. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Left a clear memo, per clause 9C. She'd recognize the reference if she ever bothered to read the agreement she forced me to sign with a smirk over wine and charcuterie. Back when she thought prenups were empowering. I didn't clear my throat or look back or make a playlist. I drove in silence. For hours. 2 gas stops. No music. Just the hum of a man discarding his former role. Husband, clown, provider, and quietly choosing to become a ghost. By noon, I was in a new city with a month-to-month lease in my name, only 3 floors above a jazz bar I'd never visit, and a roommate I'd never meet because I paid extra for the studio. I set up my laptop, changed all passwords, opened a new bank account and called HR. Hey, just confirming. Remote relocation request's been approved? Yes, we processed it this morning. You're officially assigned to the Midwest region now. Perfect. They didn't even ask why. Corporate doesn't care why the quiet guy moves as long as his metrics hold. I've always been dependable that way. I deleted her contact. Not blocked. Deleted. There's a difference. Blocking is emotional. Deleting is permanent. Meanwhile, I imagine Dana woke up around 9, maybe 10, hungover. Mascara on the pillow she bought in that overpriced boutique with the ethically sourced alpaca wool. She probably checked her phone. No good morning text. No Venmo from me for her oat milk latte. No calendar invite for brunch with my sister. Then the silence started humming. By noon she had probably called once, maybe twice. A little irritated. Where are you? She'd say with mock concern. By 3 p.m., she likely tried to log into the joint account, only to see it sitting at exactly half its former balance. She might have called the bank. Asked if there was a mistake. They would have told her, no, it's not frozen. Just adjusted. By 6 p.m., she texted, so you're being dramatic now? No response. Another text, you're seriously doing this over a joke? Still nothing. By 9 p.m., she called her friend Jenna. I know how that call went. Ugh, he's sulking. Whatever. He'll be back by Monday. He just needs time to lick his wounds. Jenna would have made a little humming sound, unsure. Yeah, maybe. He's always been sensitive. That sensitive thing? She used it often. Coded word. Means, I don't know how to make him angry, so I'll make him ashamed instead. But by Wednesday she wasn't laughing. Mutuals were no longer commenting on her stories. People at work were asking if everything was okay. Her manager, a newly divorced type who always had one too many theories about partnership dynamics, might have asked something vague like, how's your support system at home? And the townhouse? It echoed. Echoed because I took my presence with me. My footsteps. My humming while washing dishes. My weekly grocery list, the one taped to the fridge. The one she used to mock because I insisted on writing eggs, in all caps. Even the dog, well, the dog never existed. She didn't want pet hair on the upholstery. Thursday, she called again. I saw it flash across my laptop screen. Just a number now. No name. I watched it ring, took a sip of bourbon, and let it pass. She left a voicemail. Bradley, can we talk like adults? This is immature. Come home. Home. That word was a joke now. She used to say I was too small for her future. Said it once after a conference where some smarmy consultant told her to envision a higher orbit. I guess I was gravitational baggage. Friday night she tried sarcasm. You're proving my point, you know? This is why you'll never be a leader. The projection in that sentence almost melted my screen. But I stayed quiet. Because silence has weight. It unsettles more than shouting. It removes the arena she's trained to perform in. Saturday afternoon, she posted a selfie. Smiling, wine in hand. Caption, strong women don't beg. They rebuild. 6 comments. All women. All suspiciously same tone. The kind of forced empowerment you post when you're rattling inside. She'd spent years painting the narrative. Supportive husband, cute fixer-upper, big career. But without me in the frame, something looked off. Sunday came. Still no reply. Still no return. And in that vacuum, the truth began to bleed through. The thing about vanishing is, it doesn't just create absence. It creates discomfort. People start asking questions. Not about where you went, but about what made you leave. And Dana? She was running out of answers. She started with emojis. The first message, hey face blowing a kiss, everything okay? 20 minutes later, LOL, you're being dramatic, right? Then silence. For 6 hours. She broke it at 1:12 a.m. with, call me. Seriously. By morning, there were 7 missed calls. 1 email. Subject line? Body empty. She didn't panic right away. She paced, reheated coffee, scrolled through old photos, posted a story of her smoothie bowl. Caption, recharge, just in case he was watching. But I wasn't. Instead, I was registering a new LLC, ordering a second SIM, and disabling location tracking on every account tied to my name. Clean slate. No breadcrumbs. By the 3rd day, Dana moved into bargaining. She texted a photo of our cat-shaped mug, the one she called ugly but comforting. The caption just read, "This feels weird without you." No reply. Called Jenna again. Longer this time. Louder. More defensive. "He's sulking. Whatever. He'll be back." I didn't say anything I haven't said before. Jenna said less this time. A lot less. Because even her orbit was shifting. People can smell desperation when the tone shifts from confident to confused. And Dana's tone was changing fast. She called my sister. "Is he okay?" She said she doesn't get involved. She called my best friend. Straight to voicemail. Even her own mother asked the one question Dana hadn't prepared for. "What exactly did you say that night?" Dana tried to wave it off. "Nothing dramatic. You know how he is sensitive." Her mom didn't nod, just frowned. By then the house was already quieter. Not just in sound, but in temperature. Emptier in ways she couldn't name. It wasn't the absence of my stuff, though that didn't help. It was the vacuum of attention. The silence where daily friction used to live. She sat on the edge of the bed we picked out together. The one she insisted be statement-sized like something in a magazine. Now it just looked ridiculous with only her side of the sheets messed up. She opened the fridge. No oat milk. No hummus. No carrots trimmed and packed in the little zip baggies I always prepped on Sundays. She hadn't realized how much I did, because none of it was loud. Day 5. She tried anger. "This is immature. Grow up. You're acting like a child." Nothing back. The next day she called her lawyer. "Is he filing something? Like, actual something?" The lawyer said no. Nothing had been submitted yet. Then he asked her a follow-up. "Did you say anything public?" She hesitated. "I mean, it was a party. Some people heard things." "I was joking." "Define joking." Dana hung up. That night, she got wine drunk and FaceTimed me twice. I didn't pick up. The second time she left a voice message, slurred and breathy. "I'm not the villain here, okay? You're the one making it a thing. Come back so we can laugh about it." When she woke up, hungover and bloated from the sodium in her girl dinner, she wandered to the mailbox barefoot. She wasn't expecting anything serious. Maybe a bill, some catalog. What she got instead was a manila envelope. No return address. But the handwriting was unmistakable, hers. From the wedding invite list days. The penmanship she used when she still believed in aesthetics. Inside, a notice of intent to dissolve. Attached, a clause-by-clause breakdown of the prenuptial, highlighting my rights, her forfeitures, and a section titled Public Humiliation Clause, neatly flagged with a yellow post-it. One line stood out in bold. Documented verbal disparagement in presence of employer and associates may activate Clause 7B. She dropped the envelope, stared at the hardwood floor like it had betrayed her. She sat down on the stairs and dialed her phone again. Not me, her friend Rachel. "He's not bluffing," she said. "I think he's done." Rachel didn't reply for a beat. Then, "You sounded cruel that night, Dana." "I remember. People remember." Dana laughed, high-pitched and shaky. "It was a joke. Everyone was drinking." Rachel stayed silent. In the silence, Dana finally heard it. The house wasn't just empty. It was over. She stormed into her lawyer's office wearing oversized sunglasses and a rehearsed expression that hovered somewhere between mild concern and forced amusement. "Okay, walk me through whatever Bradley's little stunt is," she said, tossing the envelope onto the desk like it was junk mail. "I assume he's bluffing." Her lawyer, Roger Klein, divorce specialist to the vaguely affluent, picked up the packet with 2 fingers like it might stain. He'd seen it all before. Influencer divorces, crypto flameouts, even one guy who tried to declare his marriage null because his wife changed her star sign. But this he read twice. "Dana," he began, tone already sliding toward caution. "Did you read this prenup when you signed it?" She scoffed. "Of course not. He was the one who wanted it. I was the breadwinner back then. Everyone said it was empowering to make sure we had clarity." Roger raised an eyebrow. "Empowering? Sure." He flipped to a marked section. Clause 7B. "You remember this?" She waved her hand. "Look, I skimmed. It was mostly about financial boundaries and protecting future income, right? The usual stuff." He paused. "There's a clause tied to malicious public disparagement." Her smirk faltered. "If one spouse publicly belittles or humiliates the other in a professional or social setting, and if that behavior is documented or witnessed in a manner that could be construed as reputational harm," he looked up, "then they forfeit access to shared postmarital assets, including retirement contributions, residuals, and equity payouts." Retroactively. Dana blinked. Wait, what? You mocked him. At a corporate function. In front of over 40 people. I was tipsy. Some of whom, apparently, submitted affidavits. Including your junior associate, one of your department heads, and... He flipped the page. Your direct supervisor. She went still. Roger closed the file. Did you think he was the kind of man who'd yell? No. He plans. Quietly. She tried to rally. It's ridiculous. No judge would uphold that. He shrugged. Judges love contracts. Especially ones as clear as this. She leaned back hard in the chair. So what? He gets everything? I get nothing? Roger tilted his head. Well, not nothing. You keep your car. Your personal checking account. The items you brought into the marriage. Your work pension. Assuming he doesn't challenge it as commingled. Her voice went shrill. Challenge it? He can't touch that. I earned that. He opened another folder. Then maybe don't leave a digital trail describing him as your backup plan. In 2 group chats and a Slack thread. Screenshots were submitted. Dana stood. That's private. Roger didn't flinch. You said it on company devices. During business hours. And the language was pretty colorful. She paced now, mouth dry. This is insane. This is actual insanity. Roger leaned back, hands folded. Dana, you're used to having the narrative. But this isn't social media. This isn't HR. This is contract law. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it. Buzzed again. Finally, she looked. A text from Rachel. Have you seen what he posted on LinkedIn? Her fingers fumbled. She tapped open the app, heart climbing into her throat. There it was. A clean black and white headshot of Bradley. Shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Beard slightly thicker. Expression calm. Caption. Rebuilding in silence has its rewards. No hashtags. No flair. But the comments? Executives. Former colleagues. Even 2 names from her own network she hadn't spoken to in months. Proud of you, man. Knew you had it in you. Let's talk partnership soon. Dana's mouth opened, then closed. Roger said nothing. She sank into the chair. Is he allowed to win like this? She muttered. Roger didn't answer. Because legally, yes, he was doing exactly what the clause allowed. And emotionally, he was dismantling her narrative without raising his voice. She grabbed her bag, muttered something about needing air, and stumbled out. The waiting room receptionist offered a tight smile. Dana didn't return it. Out on the sidewalk, cars passed, horns blared. Someone shouted from across the street. But all she heard was one phrase echoing like static in her skull. Then earn it yourself. And now, she couldn't afford to. She dialed Greg, Bradley's best friend since college. The kind of guy who helped move couches, who gave groomsmen speeches laced with inside jokes and light tears. Greg had always been easy to manipulate. He liked Dana, liked feeling like the peacekeeper. The fun one. Voicemail. She called again. Still voicemail. Her third attempt rang once, then went straight to disconnect. That's when she knew. She sent a text. Hey Greg, just trying to touch base. Hope we can chat soon. Would love your perspective. No response. She waited 3 hours. Nothing. Then she called Bradley's sister, Rachel. Rachel had always been standoffish. Civil but cool. Never warmed to Dana, never really played the performative brunch game. Dana always assumed it was jealousy or some unspoken sibling thing. Rachel answered after 2 rings. No hello. Just, I don't get involved. Dana forced a light laugh. Okay, wow. Can I just ask? Do you even know what's going on? I know enough. You humiliated my brother at a work event. He left. Now you want sympathy. I'm not interested. Click. Dana sat there, stunned. She hadn't even gotten to the fake crying part yet. She texted her own brother, Mike. He was blunt but dependable. Surely he would help. His reply came quick. Honestly, Dana, you were cruel. That one stung. Cruel? She threw her phone across the room. Not in rage, more in disbelief. Like the whole world had tilted and no one had given her a heads up. She retrieved the phone, cracked screen and all, and opened Instagram. No sign of Bradley. Not on his profile. Not in tagged photos. Not in old stories. Gone. Not just inactive, scrubbed. She opened Facebook. Same thing. Nothing. She tried Twitter. Dead end. Only one place left. LinkedIn. She hesitated. Dana had never considered Bradley the LinkedIn type. He'd always teased her for her curated humblebrags and thought leadership posts. But now, there he was. New profile photo, sleek, confident, minimal background. No more awkward couple photo cropped into a headshot. No tie. Just a button-up and that new, unnerving calm in his expression. Headline: Founder Principal Consultant at Northcairn Strategies, LLC. Location: Denver, Colorado. Dana blinked. Denver? He'd hated Denver. Said it was all mountains and people who couldn't park straight. She clicked on the company page. Only 3 posts so far. One was a quiet thank you note for reaching their first quarter goals. Another was a podcast link. The third was a photo from a co-working space. Him sitting at a table, laptop open, half smile on his face. Behind him, a whiteboard with some strategy diagram half visible. Comments from strangers. Likes from connections. Endorsements from names she didn't recognize. He was rebranding. And it was working. Worse, he'd done it without telling anyone. She opened her group chat with Jenna and Talia. Typed, "Have you guys seen Bradley's LinkedIn?" And hit send. Jenna replied first, "Yeah, I saw it a few days ago. He looks good." Talia chimed in, "Wait, he moved? That's wild. Didn't you say he couldn't survive without you?" Dana typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Then Jenna added, "I mean, I get why he left. You were kind of brutal that night. We were all cringing." She didn't respond. Instead, she opened her own LinkedIn. 3,217 connections. Recent post. A selfie at a corporate panel with a caption about resilience through disruption. No one had liked it in 36 hours. She refreshed Bradley's profile. 5 more likes. Dana sat in her silent kitchen. Sunlight bleeding in through the blinds like a spotlight on her irrelevance. The silence that used to feel like peace now pulsed like judgment. This wasn't just a marriage unraveling. This was exile. And the terrifying part? People weren't just choosing to stay quiet. They were choosing him. She refreshed again. 6 more likes. And still, she couldn't look away. It started with a podcast autoplay. Dana was doing what she always did on Sunday mornings. Pouring too much oat milk into overpriced granola. Scrolling her phone with one hand and half watching a YouTube video about executive burnout recovery. The video ended, and the algorithm rolled into the next episode. Podcast intro. Soft piano chords. Professional voiceover. This week on Elevation Underground, we sit down with a man who left quietly and came back louder than ever. Bradley H. Martin, founder of Northcairn Strategies. Dana stopped mid-chew. It was the name. She hadn't heard him use his full name in years. Bradley H. sounded clinical, deliberate. Not the man who used to accidentally leave the fridge cracked open. She tapped pause, stared at the screen. Something about the episode title made her throat tighten. Rebuilding in silence. She pressed play. The first thing she noticed was his tone. It was steady. Not defensive. Not passive. Measured. There was depth to it. Like he'd spent months talking to no one but had grown more fluent in himself. The host laughed. "You kind of disappeared overnight. No social posts, no cryptic tweets, no messy fallout. What made you vanish like that?" Bradley replied, "You know, sometimes you don't need to explain your exit. You just need to make it." Dana froze. The host pressed. "But surely there was some catalyst. Something that made you say, 'I'm done.'" A pause. Then, "Let's just say when you're constantly the joke in someone else's performance, eventually the punchline becomes freedom." Dana's face flushed. Her granola sat forgotten. The episode kept playing. He talked about founding Northcairn. How he used his modest severance and a quiet inheritance his father left him. Nothing huge, just enough to make bold choices without begging anyone for permission. He spoke about early mistakes. About turning freelance gigs into strategy retainers. About being underestimated. "That was the gift, really," Bradley said. "They didn't see me coming. Not even the people closest to me." Dana's jaw clenched. The host laughed again. "And now you're here. 2 Fortune 100 clients. Expansion into Seattle and Boston. What do you credit most?" Another pause. Then, silence. Space. "And remembering that you don't need to win the argument. You just have to leave the room." Dana slammed her laptop shut like it had insulted her. But it was too late. The voice had already wedged itself into her skull. He sounded taller. Not literally, of course, but larger, centered, as if something had straightened in him. Like the world had finally stopped treating him like a nice guy and started listening. She opened his LinkedIn again. The same profile photo. But now his featured section included a media tab with the podcast episode linked, front and center. She scrolled through the comments. One former boss. Incredible growth arc, proud to have worked with you. A verified profile she didn't recognize. Booking you for our leadership summit. DM incoming. Another comment simply read, silent storms do the most damage. Dana turned off her phone and stood in the middle of the living room, arms crossed. Her mind raced. All those nights she told him he was risk-averse, that he was too comfortable, that he wouldn't survive in a room of killers. Now he was thriving in exactly that kind of room. And the best part? He wasn't inviting her in. She opened her own laptop, opened her CV doc. It hadn't been updated in 8 months. The bullet points felt hollow now. Panels, networking brunches, speaking at a fintech event where the mics didn't work. She clicked her email. Typed. To Jenna, Talia. Subject. Quick favor. Can someone help me redo my resume? Then deleted the draft. Felt too desperate. Too transparent. Instead, she scrolled Instagram. Bradley still wasn't there. But one mutual had posted a blurry group shot from a Denver bar. Bradley among them, relaxed, a drink in hand, eyes crinkled in mid-laugh. The caption. North Cairn boys celebrating another win. Fire. She zoomed in. Tried to find signs of stress. Age. Insecurity. She found none. Bradley wasn't just moving on. He was accelerating. And now, she wasn't even a speed bump. The invitation wasn't for her. That much was clear. It came up in passing over drinks with a mutual acquaintance. Olivia, a PR strategist Dana barely tolerated but kept around for moments like this. Are you going to the North Cairn launch next week? Olivia had asked, sipping a mezcal cocktail, her tone too casual to be unintentional. Dana blinked. What launch? Oh, I assumed you knew. Olivia bit her lip. Sorry. Awkward. It's Bradley's new office opening downtown. Kind of a big deal. He's getting a lot of local press lately. Dana's throat tightened. I wasn't invited. Olivia looked appropriately sorry. I'm sure it was just an oversight. It wasn't. Dana knew that. Bradley didn't do oversights. Every move he made lately was calculated, clean, surgical. And it wasn't just an office opening. It was a damn coronation. Still, she showed up. Not as herself, but as the version she used to weaponize. Sleek hair, dark blazer, lipstick that implied confidence, heels that announced presence. She told herself she just wanted to see, just observe. But really, she wanted to catch him off guard. Wanted to remind him that he wasn't above her. Not really. The venue was sharp. Glass, steel, ambient lighting that made everyone look like they belonged in a magazine spread about second acts and silent money. Bradley stood near the center of it all, talking with a small circle of people who looked far too comfortable in expensive shoes. His posture was different now. Shoulders back, hands loose in his pockets, smile easy but unreadable. The man who once tripped over his words at dinner parties now looked like he owned the oxygen in the room. And beside him, a woman. Elegant. Dark blue dress. Minimal makeup. Poised in that way Dana always used to fake. Shoulders relaxed, eyes alert, no need to dominate the space. She had presence without reaching for it. Dana hovered by the drink table for a minute, pretending to scroll. Waiting. Watching. When Bradley finally glanced in her direction, it wasn't a double take. It was just a look, then a sip of his drink. Not cold. Not warm. Just done. Dana walked over anyway, because pride is a hell of a drug. Hi, she said, smiling just enough to pass as friendly. Didn't expect to see you so soon after the podcast fame. The woman beside him smiled, genuinely. Hi, you must be Dana. Dana blinked. I'm sorry. Bradley finally turned fully toward her. His expression was neutral, polite, but his eyes held no softness, no recognition, no invitation. I thought we handled everything legally, he said, as if discussing billing codes. Was there something else? She opened her mouth, closed it. No, I just heard about the launch. Wanted to stop by. Support, you know? He nodded once. Well, it's good to see you. He didn't ask how she was. Didn't introduce the woman. Didn't fill the silence. Just nodded. The woman extended her hand. I'm Elise. Dana shook it, hating how steady her grip was. There was no bitterness in her tone. No possessiveness in her stance. just calm, which made it worse. Dana tried to speak again, but nothing formed. Everything she'd rehearsed, every jab, every passive-aggressive compliment, every little comment meant to remind him who she used to be in his life, evaporated. Bradley turned back to the group without another word. Conversation resumed. Dana stood there for a moment too long. Long enough for it to be noticed. Then turned and walked away, trying to look unbothered. On the Uber ride home, she pulled up Elisa's LinkedIn. Of course it was polished. Former strategy lead at a boutique firm. Board member for a local arts nonprofit. 3 articles published. Dana found herself reading one of them. Why strategic quiet isn't weakness, it's leverage. She tossed her phone on the seat. That night, she stared at the ceiling of her too-quiet townhouse, playing the scene over and over again in her head. His tone, his question. Was there something else? There wasn't. Not anymore. Her phone buzzed with silence. That's how it felt. Anyway, like the absence of a reply had its own pulse, its own hum. Dana lay flat on the couch, wine glass tipped sideways on the coffee table. A deep maroon puddle soaking into the sleeve of the throw pillow she once bragged about finding on clearance but still artisan. The TV droned low in the background. Some dating reality show where even the dramatic breakups felt more civilized than her last attempt at a conversation. Her head was fuzzy, the kind of fuzzy that turns sharp if you try to sit up too fast. She stared at her phone, thumb hovering over the keyboard. 1:23 a.m. She typed, "I'm sorry. Pause. I was scared." Pause again. "You were too good to me. I know that now." And finally, "Please just answer." For messages. No punctuation. No flair. Just raw. Ugly. Human. Sent at 1:30 a.m. exactly. The delivered confirmation hit like a needle. And then, nothing. She called. Once. Twice. No voicemail anymore. Just endless ringing that eventually gave up and dropped her back into her own breathing. The sound of her fridge's compressor kicking on felt louder than the call ever did. She scrolled up through the conversation thread. Not that there was much to scroll. Her text stretched on like a soliloquy. His replies were ghosts months old. A single noted. A final, "We'll handle it legally." Before that, years of banter. Inside jokes. Grocery reminders. Flight confirmations. He used to send her photos of sunsets when he traveled for work. He had a thing for golden hour. She hated that she missed those. Hated even more that she'd mocked him for it back then. Called it midlife Instagram energy. He had laughed, but after that, the sunset photos stopped. Now she'd give anything for one more. Dana wiped her eyes with the edge of her sleeve, only realizing too late that it was soaked with wine. The cold dampness shocked her back into the moment. She stood, walked crookedly to the bathroom, flipped on the light. Her reflection looked older. Not in the traditional sense. Just weathered, like someone who'd lost a bet with time. Mascara smudged beneath her left eye. Lipstick rubbed clean off. The kind of face that hadn't planned to be seen. Not by others, not even by herself. She picked up her phone again. Still no reply. Still delivered. Bradley had seen the messages. She was sure of it. Even if he didn't open them, he knew. And still nothing. That was the part that hollowed her. Not rage. Not sarcasm. Just silence. She wasn't being punished. He simply didn't need to explain himself anymore. He'd built a boundary so thick, so immovable, that even her most vulnerable confession couldn't penetrate it. Dana climbed into bed with her clothes still on, the taste of old wine clinging to the back of her throat. The room spun gently around her. She stared at the ceiling fan blades until they blurred into one. Sometime around 2 a.m., she whispered into the dark, "I didn't think you'd actually leave." No one replied. And in that space, in that vast and final quiet, she realized the most terrifying thing of all. He hadn't left out of anger. He'd left because peace finally mattered more than her voice. She noticed the car first. Silver. Clean. Parked with exact symmetry in the driveway like it had never rushed a day in its life. The kind of car you buy when you're not trying to impress anyone, just trying to be efficient, intentional. Bradley's kind of car. Her heart didn't race. It dropped. Quietly, like the clink of a glass falling into a sink. She opened the front gate, stomach tightening, heels crunching on the gravel path they used to argue about. He always wanted to replace it. She said it added character. He said it added sprained ankles. He was sitting on the porch steps, one hand resting on his knee, the other holding a simple black binder. Not flowers. Not a suitcase. A binder. Dana froze halfway up the walkway. The air between them was too still. He looked different. Not just thinner or healthier, distant. Like something in his core had been swapped out while she wasn't looking. Whatever light used to flicker behind his eyes when she walked into a room. Gone. Not extinguished. Just relocated. "Hey," she said softly, testing the word like a match. He nodded. "Dana." She moved closer. Not too close. Close enough to search his face for cracks. For anything. But he gave her nothing. No frown. No warmth. Just presence. "What is this?" she asked, motioning toward the binder. He held it out to her, like a delivery driver passing off a package. Inside were neatly labeled tabs. Section 1, Property Division. Section 2, Retirement Disbursement. Section 3, Non-Disparagement Acknowledgement. Section 4, Final Waiver Alimony. Section 5, Termination of Rights and Shared Accounts. Everything signed, dated, witnessed, her name already filled in. He didn't wait for her to flip through it. Just spoke evenly. "I wanted you to have this before the end of the month. That way there's no confusion. No drag out. It's clean. You keep your accounts. Keep mine. No claim from me. No claim from you." She blinked. "No alimony?" He shook his head. "No need." "Why?" A long pause. Then he looked at her, direct, unmoved. "You said I'd never give you the life you deserve." A beat. "I think you were right." She opened her mouth, but no words formed. She hadn't prepared for this. She was ready for a conversation, confrontation, maybe even an argument she could spin into reconciliation. Not this. Not peace. "Bradley, I didn't." He raised a hand. Not aggressively. Just, finally. "You don't need to explain. I'm not here for closure. I'm here to deliver the last of what was yours, and take back what was mine." She stood still, clutching the binder like it might burn her palms. He stepped past her, calm, briefcase in hand, wearing a light gray jacket she'd never seen before. He paused at the sidewalk, turned back once. "Take care of yourself, Dana." And that was it. "No, you'll regret this. No, I loved you. No, maybe one day. Just finality." She didn't call after him. Couldn't. The door clicked shut behind her. The binder weighed 10 pounds in her arms. Maybe more. She placed it on the kitchen table, the one he built, the one she once joked was too rustic for city dining. The wood was smooth, sturdy. She stared at the documents, at his clean signature, at the simple layout. It was all so respectful, and that's what hurt most. He hadn't tried to punish her. He hadn't sought revenge. He just left, on his terms, with dignity, and the life she once mocked him for building, it no longer needed her approval. It was already complete. The photo stopped her thumb mid-scroll. It wasn't even front and center, just one image in a carousel on Olivia's feed. Fourth slide in, tucked between a sun-drenched charcuterie board and a group shot of people playing cornhole barefoot on trimmed grass. But there he was, Bradley, sitting on the edge of a dock, sunglasses pushed up into his hair, one arm draped over the back of a weathered bench like it belonged to him. He was laughing, head tilted, relaxed. The kind of laugh that didn't come from cleverness, but from ease. From being surrounded by people who wanted nothing from him but presence. And beside him, that same woman from the launch event. Elise, this time not in heels or a power dress. Just a soft green sweater and worn jeans, barefoot, hair pulled back in a messy knot. She had a coffee in one hand, the other resting lightly, familiarly on his knee. Dana stared, zoomed, stared again. He looked whole. Not recovered. Not better off. Just untethered. Like someone who'd finally peeled off a layer of skin that didn't fit. She didn't double tap. She didn't comment. She just backed out of the post and stared at her screen. The photo burned into the afterglow of her mind. Her apartment, rented, beige, always too hot in summer and too cold in winter, hummed around her. The radiator clicked like a bad knee. The cheap glass coffee table still had a scratch from when she dropped a wine bottle last month. She'd meant to buff it out. Never did. The silence felt different now. Less empty. More revealing. She walked to the window and looked out over the parking lot. A guy in sweatpants walked a golden retriever. A grocery bag split open near the dumpster, spilling lemons onto cracked pavement. She turned back to the couch. Saturday. Opened her photo app. Scrolled. Every picture of her and Bradley was gone. She deleted them in a petty moment months ago, telling herself she was making space. Now she just stared at blank patches of memory. Albums with titles like Napa Weekend and That Cabin Trip that opened into nothing. She reopened Olivia's post, slid to the fourth image again. This time she studied Elise more closely. There was no smugness in her, no performance, just stillness, the kind of woman Dana used to claim didn't exist. No one's really that calm, it's always a front. Maybe not. Maybe some people just stop needing the world to see them suffer. The worst part wasn't the jealousy. It was the absence of relevance. She no longer mattered in his story. No tension, no memory, no ghost, just a closed chapter. And all that noise she made, the jokes, the comments, the control, it had evaporated. Like steam off a lakehouse dock. Dana stood, opened her fridge, closed it again. She wandered to the bookshelf, ran her hand along titles she never finished, cookbooks she never used, self-help manuals with cracked spines and no notes. Then she sat back down. She kept thinking about the way he looked at her that night on the rooftop. Not angry, not heartbroken, just clear. Like a man who'd already left the room before his feet moved. And now, he was somewhere with trees, with laughter, with a woman who didn't try to shrink him into a punchline. She had wanted the life she deserved. And maybe, in some twisted way, she got it. An apartment she decorated alone. Friends who didn't call back as quickly. Photos where she smiled too wide, too often. And every time she thought about reaching out, just to say something, anything, she remembered his voice. You said I'd never give you the life you deserve. I think you were right. And she knew. He wasn't being cruel. He was just done.